Joining us now, Brooke Beck from Family Planning. Brooke, we talked a long time ago on different topics, but human papilloma virus, something that's making the rounds here. Crawford County, I know I'm part of the Crawford Health Improvement Coalition, and they've been looking at statistics and working on a grant to help raise awareness about this. There was a website out there that studied county by county comparing cancer rates. Crawford County was the second highest, only to Philadelphia County in all of Pennsylvania, for cervical cancer, which comes from that virus. So, wow. I mean, can we do anything about this?
We absolutely can. We can make sure that everybody is getting immunized in the county and more awareness for the Gardasil immunization as well. It can start with your doctor. Males and females can get immunized between the ages of 11 and 12 is when we suggest that they start their immunization.
Right there. Males and
yes.
Females?
How about we say boys and girls?
You always think about these kind of things. It's, we've got to get the girls in there to get that. So
right.
Boys too.
Correct. The Gardasil immunization for the males, we get a lot of questions on that. It can prevent anal cancers as well as genital warts. And the HPV virus is what causes the cervical cancer. So that is why we need the boys to be immunized with the girls as well.
No, I interrupted. You were starting to talk about the recommendations for getting the immunization. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Okay.
Okay. Gardasil can actually be started at the age of 9, but most of the time we want it to start around 11 and 12. That would be when your child was getting their 6th grade checkup. They're already due for immunizations at that time, so it would be one added shot. This is a series of shots, so they get their shot at 11 or 12, come back in 2 months, get another shot, and back at 6 months to get a shot.
You guys do this at Family Planning?
We do Gardasil shots here at Family Planning as well as Meadville Community Health Center. Okay. And I bring them in because at Family Planning we cannot give the immunization because it's a VFC immunization to anybody under the age of 19.
Okay.
Meaning a vaccine for children.
Okay. The health department, by the way, too, does have programs related to this, and for those folks who are concerned about the affordability, there's guidelines and so on, so you can contact the local health department about that one, too. So, again, sorry I interrupted. Keep going.
Well, when you speak about the Department of Health as well, there's also a Merck Vaccine Assistance Program. If your insurance does not cover Gardasil or you don't have insurance, you can always come to Family Planning. I can do the Patient Assistance Program. It's immediate. I fax it through. Less than 5 minutes, we get a confirmation. I've never seen anybody declined.
So let me change gears with you for a second and ask about this from a whole different angle. So there are folks out there who hesitate about vaccines in general. Let me just throw you that topic. Vaccination, I have a bias about this, but vaccination to some folks is a bad thing. To me, that's totally wrong. But what would you say that discussion with a parent or?
Well, it is the parent's choice to do any immunizations, not just Gardasil. We do have to make them sign a waiver if they do not want to immunize. I believe that with Gardasil, it's one less risk for getting cancer. So I support the Gardasil immunization.
There's I think a feeling out there among some folks that well, everybody else has it, so then I don't have to worry about taking it myself, or I don't have to worry about it for my kids or whatever. The herd mentality, if the herd's all immunized, then, well, that seems to be growing now. I mean, we hear about measles outbreaks, in California, big measles outbreak a year or two ago. Yeah, things that are like, what are you talking about? Polio's coming back. I mean, polio, my football coach when I was a kid, was like the strongest, toughest guy I ever knew, but he had one arm that didn't work from polio as a kid, and it's like, holy mackerel, that guy, had to have been fully intact, he'd have been in the NFL and everything else. So like from a little kid, my own personal experience with someone who suffered from polio, something that was totally preventable by a vaccination that didn't exist when he was a kid, now it does. And I just can't even understand, the thinking of, that a vaccine's a bad thing.
Well, at Family Planning, what we like to do, and all we really can do, is pull out our brochures, show the facts, give them pictures. That changes their mind real quick. Once they start to see the facts down on the paper, they most of the time, if they're hesitant and have the questions and they read up on their facts themselves, they choose to get immunized. Or if, say we have somebody that came in at 19 and maybe wasn't immunized as a child.
Still a chance to help them?
Still a chance to help them. They may have already been introduced to the HPV, certain strands of the virus, but they're like, man, I wish I would have got this earlier.
So it's, even though you missed it as a 10 or 11, 12.
Yeah, right.
In that
11,
category, there's still benefit to getting it as a young adult.
Right. If somebody walks in with cervical cancer, getting
Probably-
the shot's not going to help.
Probably too late.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
too late then.
Second question of a similar nature. Well, if the kids get this shot early on, that's going to make them more promiscuous. I mean, what would your reaction to that be?
I don't believe that's what it is. I mean, you can get HPV from skin-to-skin contact. You don't have to be sexually active. When we speak with the children about the immunization, we don't speak about, are you sexually active, or now it's okay to, not use condoms or go ahead and be sexually active. We never speak about sex when we talk about the immunization. We just speak about the less risk for getting certain types of cancers.
I mean, I've heard, in the political world, the moonshot from the 1960s, we're going to put a man on the moon and bring him back home, and now the current moonshot is we're going to prevent cancer, we're going to cure cancer. Well, here's one that can be prevented, right?
Prevented, correct.
A series of cancers, not just one, but more than one.
Right.
So we don't have to go to the moon. Here's a model for some other things, I guess. So what would be the take-home point? What would be the sales pitch that you would make?
Well, the biggest thing, and why I'm really interested in being here and talking with you today, is how many devastated girls that we get. Their PAPs come up abnormal. We have to call them. They're devastated. They don't even know what HPV is. And that's a shocker. People that are worried about, if I give my child the Gardasil, will it make them be sexually active? How about the people that are already sexually active that don't even know their risk, that they're out there and they're doing it, and then they have to go and get biopsies and procedures done and, lower their risk for possibly, if they end up having to have a LEEP procedure or something, lower the risk for their infertility, the chance of having a family one day. So that's the big eye-opener for us here in the office, is how devastated that the HPV virus can be. And it doesn't have to remain with you. We don't start screening for HPV until you're 30 years old, because when you're younger, it is a virus, so your body has the chance to fight off the HPV, but it's devastating to our patients.
So make a plug for family planning. What do folks need to do to come see you?
Just pick up the phone and give us a call.
What all happens at family planning?
Well, we take care of all kinds of patients, from males and females, obviously, ages 12 and beyond. We do way much more than Gardasil. We do all reproductive care, pregnancy preventions, pregnancy verification, STD screenings, immunizations, birth control. We do outreach programs to the colleges, to the high schools. So we're pretty involved. We do, obviously, annual screenings for breast and cervical cancer. We have the mammogram van that travels with us sometimes, and we get to do on-site mammograms with the pap smears. Just a real nice program.
So what happens if somebody, we can't afford it, my insurance isn't very good, or what happens there?
Almost like a plug in your ears, because we have a certain program that meets many different guidelines. We give out free mammograms, free pap smears. We have different titles, different grants that pay for the birth control. I already said we have the patient assistance program for the Gardasil immunization. We will always find a way to be able to help somebody. And if somebody cannot afford it, even if they have the income there and it doesn't make them eligible, they still qualify for one of our free programs.
So something that can be prevented, way better to take those extra steps, in my opinion, way better to take those extra steps up front, head it off. Are there risks associated? I mean, I'm trying to think of the
risk for the immunization?
The arguments that you might get. Why don't I do that, or I don't want to send my kid? Yeah.
Maybe, redness, soreness in the arm, maybe a bruise.
So really minimal compared to the chance of
Those are the same risk for any immunization, though.
The chance of having a cancer.
And benefit is reducing your risk for cervical, anal cancers, and genital warts.
Well, Brooke, thanks. Important information. It's
Thank you.
It's good to see you again.
You too.
And joining
Thank
us
you.
now, Anne Marie and Susan from the American Cancer Society. Let me ask you guys to introduce yourselves and your roles with the Cancer Society, but we've got an important topic we're talking about today.
Okay. I'm Sue Ninetemp. I'm with the American Cancer Society. I am a health systems account manager. That means I work with hospitals all throughout Pennsylvania and Ohio.
And you and I always sit next to each other at the Cancer
Yes,
Committee
we
meetings
do.
for Meadville
Yes,
Medical
we do.
Center. So, okay, good.
So we know each other.
And I'm Anna Marie Lewbowski with the American Cancer Society. I actually, my role with the American Cancer Society over the past 15 years has changed a lot. So we've worked closely here at Meadville Medical Center, but now I actually am a manager of special events. So I work more with our fundraising events that we do in our communities, and we have one coming up this October, Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Well, the topic for today, HPV, the Human Papilloma Virus, and its connection with cancers. And let me just throw you that one generally. I was shocked when I found that Crawford County was amongst the highest in Pennsylvania, county-wise, on a per 100,000. I think is how they counted that basis for folks with cervical cancer. I didn't know that, but wow, we need folks to know about that. So.
And the American Cancer Society this year actually, and over the past several years, has taken this topic very seriously, and recently partnered and endorsed the CDC's guidelines. They changed the guidelines for screening for HPV and getting vaccinated, and that's the big thing, is the immunization of people to prevent HPV. So we partnered and endorsed the guidelines for basically recommending that boys and girls between the ages of 11 and 12 receive the vaccination, which we know we can prevent this disease, so why not prevent it and not have to worry about getting cancer later.
Mm-hmm. And I think an important thing to note about the vaccinations themselves is it is a series of 3 vaccines. So it is important for people to make sure they're talking to their doctor and scheduling all 3 of those shots, because if they only get one and don't get the full series, then they're not fully protected. So we need to make sure that people are doing that follow-up and getting the full series of vaccines.
And it's not like you come back next year, there's a time sequence when it works the best, right?
There is, yeah. And there is there's a little brochure here that Brooke left. I know she was on the show earlier to talk about don't forget the next step and to do all 3 doses and when those are recommended, and making sure you get all 3. So they are pretty quick in series.
And the CDC has recommended that it's most effective when given early. They can be given later in life, or even if one of the 3 in the series is missed along the way, you can go back and get that part of the series. But they're showing that in order to prevent HPV, it is really strongly advised to have that early, by age 13.
Anne Marie, I remember a couple of years ago, you and I served on a committee together, and American Cancer Society was doing a huge study of thousands and thousands of people. I signed up on whatever and got the blood tests or whatever.
Cancer
Is it
prevention
too soon
study.
for that stuff to be, learn anything from that?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yes.
So the American Cancer Society is in the process of conducting, it's actually our 4th in our history, cancer prevention study, and we're following 300,000 people throughout the country, including a lot from right here in Northwest PA. We are starting to get some results from that already. That study's been going on for probably 5 or 6 years now. And we are starting to see some things. And in our history with the other prevention studies we've done, we've helped to prove the link between smoking and cancer. We've helped prove the link between obesity and cancer. So those cancer prevention studies are so important to help us find things like vaccinations and lifestyle things that we can change to reduce our risk or maybe even completely prevent cancer.
Kind of like thinking of my friends that work in the ER at the hospital. What's the best accident? The one that you never had. The one that was prevented, right?
Exactly.
If there's a better way to deal with cancer, let's prevent it.
Well,
right?
and that's one of the things that we hear so much when we go out and speak in the community, when we talk to patients, when we talk to family members. Our ultimate goal, all of us, I think, is for people to never have to hear those words, you have cancer. It's devastating to the patient, it's devastating to the family when someone is diagnosed. So if we can find more and more things that are going to do just that, they're going to prevent somebody from ever having to go through cancer treatments, that is the ultimate goal.
I've been through that with several family members, and those words coming from the doctor's mouth, it's like getting punched in the head. You're wow. That's
Sure.
It's nothing you ever want to hear. That aside, get your screenings, because if you do get that information, you want that as soon as possible to get.
Well, you look at even this lovely thing from Merck here. Every single day, almost 30 women are diagnosed with cervical cancer, and we know studies are showing, and from many of the research studies that we're doing, that the HPV virus causes cervical cancer. So if we can prevent people from getting the HPV virus, we can prevent cervical cancer. Because by the time cervical cancer is diagnosed, because it goes fairly undiagnosable, then you've got problems. And many, many women don't do prevention and early detection treatment for any cervical cancer or any cancer. So if people aren't going for their pap smears and aren't going for their exams, it just grows and they don't know. But if we can start at the beginning, get immunized at a young age, and prevent HPV from forming cervical cancer, those numbers could drop dramatically.
Absolutely.
I sometimes feel like a broken record on that point, but just to me, that's just something we need to keep pushing at home. Yes, you don't want that meeting with the doctor, but if that meeting does have to happen, you want it as soon as possible. Get out there, get screened, have a doctor, visit that doctor once a year or whatever. Take the screenings when they're recommended. Let me shift gears just slightly about that. But the American Cancer Society has quite a recommendation guide for folks about when do I get screened for colon cancer and breast cancer and
we absolutely do, and that's if you call our 800 number, which is 800-227-2345, and that phone number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, or go to our website, which is cancer.org. Two very trusted sites for cancer information. We have all of our recommended screening guidelines on there. So yes, for breast cancer screening, to talk to your doctor starting at age 40 about what's appropriate for screening for you. For colon cancer, to start at age 50. For cervical cancer, starting in your 20s and 30s. And one of the things that we have changed a little bit in the way we talk about screening guidelines is they're guidelines, and they are recommendations for people with normal risk. So you need to have those conversations with your doctor. And that comes back to that whole conversation about having a family physician going every year, talking about what do I need to be doing now?
You said people at normal risk. I mean, if a family member had breast cancer, if a family member had, again, you need to talk to the doctor about that. Maybe you need to get screened more often. I remember several years ago, maybe it was breast cancer, but it was a government recommendation. Well, we don't need to be spending so much. My take on it. We don't need to spend so much money on mammograms. Maybe you don't need to go until, what was it, 45, whatever. And I'm like, went through that with my spouse, and I said, hey, them fighting words to me,
Yeah, we actually did change our screening guidelines, and now we do recommend that they start at 45 with yearly screenings, but having that conversation at 40.
I have 2 daughters now, and it's like, okay, now they're going to need to be checked.
Exactly.
They definitely are.
Look at
way
the
before
risk
that.
Factors.
Yeah.
And family history, for all of the cancers, it's looking at your family history, talking about risk factors, other health factors that you have going on in your life as well. And the American Cancer Society also tries to provide a lot of resources for family physicians to make it easy for them to remind people about getting a colonoscopy, having a mammogram. We can help them with patient reminders or information that they can share so that message is sent home right from their family doctor to get these tests. So that's a big push for us, for all cancers, especially when we know we can prevent them. And we know that colonoscopy can prevent cancer. We know that HPV vaccination can prevent cancer. So we need to keep pushing that forward and having the physicians help us with that.
Some of those things you catch before they become cancer, right? I mean, you mentioned colonoscopy.
Absolutely.
Some of the
exactly.
precancerous things that you can get taken care of beforehand. So get those checkups.
And another thing that you mentioned too that I'd like to stress is, it is the family history, but it also is personal history. So it is your eating habits, your smoking habits, alcohol habits, exercise habits. Those can all affect your chance of getting cancer. A lot of people kind of stand back and say, well, nobody in my family has been diagnosed, or nobody close in my family has been diagnosed, so I don't have to get screened, or I don't have to worry about it. And really, not that many cancers are genetically linked. So don't think that if nobody in your close immediate family has been diagnosed that you're home free.
And
you
that
need
cancer
to look at your
prevention
own
study that we
too.
mentioned earlier, a lot of the questions and a lot of the things they're following on that personal screening, because I signed up for that as well, are looking at diet, exercise, lifestyle. How long do you sit every day? Are you physically active? They're finding more and more that lifestyle factors are playing a major role in cancer. So we, like Anna Marie said, we can't just look at history anymore of our families or our medical history. We have to look at the whole picture, And so prevention and early detection are key across the boards. And a lot of it is educating the public on what can you do to prevent cancer, and what can you do to find out if you have cancer, and being screened, because the biggest part is the only tests that are effective are the tests that people take. So that's the message is you have to be tested and you have to be screened.
This HPV, since I've learned more about this, it's like this seems to be one of the clearest ones that's ever come across to me anyway. And I don't have the deepest understanding of all this kind of stuff, but it's like, wow, you can prevent cancer with some shots, when you're a teenager. That's
Sure.
Yeah, let's get the shots.
And with society the way it is, and this is such an important step forward for the future generations behind us. It is a necessary step to prevent cancer. It really is.
Now, let's say you get that bad news and there's treatment needed and so on. American Cancer Society is right in front of helping folks through all that. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, we certainly are. So I already mentioned our 800 number and our website. And those really are such important resources. I think people don't understand how important it is for people to have information. So when someone is diagnosed, whether it's the patient or the family member or even a friend, they can call us, they can go on our website, they can get information about the cancer diagnosis, about available treatments, about resources that are available. And we have people there that can even help them with things like insurance questions, setting people up with clinical trials. There just is so much we can help people with. Plus we have...
right for your cancer treatment. Even something as simple as that
and
happens.
Right here in Crawford County, we have programs that are more close to home. We have a Road to Recovery program, which is volunteer drivers that drive patients to and from their cancer treatments.
That's awesome. I mean, I don't know if folks know about that.
I don't think enough people do.
And we're always looking for drivers. The drivers are phenomenal. They actually pick patients up, take them to their treatment, and then take them home, because that is so crucial. And it might be hard to believe, but there are some people who have no way to get to their appointments. And life-saving treatments are, this is it. So that program alone is very helpful. We also right here at Yolanda Barco offer a class called Look and Feel Better. And that's a class where licensed cosmetologists teach a group of women how to take care of their hair and their skin and put on makeup while they're going through treatment to sort of work with the side effects that come along with it. And more than just talking about the beauty and the taking care of that, it becomes a really wonderful support system. The women get to talk about things together and realize they're not in this alone. That's a very exciting class that's offered right here in this area as well.
I'm not sure what the studies are about all that, but if you sit back and wring your hands and hope something bad, hope this all goes well or whatever, or if you jump in there and we're going to take this thing on head on,
sure.
I mean, to me, that's the way to go.
Well, and Look and Feel Better, and plus we have a free wig program as well. So there are free wigs available here in Crawford County. If a woman has lost her hair due to cancer treatment, she can go get a free wig. And the free wig program and the Look and Feel Better program, I've had the opportunity to sit through those with people who are going through cancer. And I like to tell the story. I've been with groups of women. They come into the Look and Feel Better program at the beginning. They're uncomfortable. Maybe they've lost their hair, their eyebrow. You lose your eyebrows, you lose your eyelashes sometimes. They don't feel comfortable in their own skin. And after that 2-hour class, I have seen groups of women say, boy, we look really good. We should go out to dinner. We should go shopping. They just feel more confident, and they're able to fight the disease so much harder because they feel better about themselves.
Yes, and they feel comfortable around each other. They might, some of them take their wigs off and say, "Oh, it's now I can rest easy in here." But they transform. They really do. It is it's a really wonderful class. I highly recommend it, and for anyone that hasn't taken that class.
I've become convinced of the same thing that you just mentioned, that if you just sit back and wait for bad things to happen or whatever, versus let's go, we're gonna take this on. This is not a death sentence. I remember as a little kid, my grandmother had breast cancer, and the adults would whisper, they wouldn't even say the C word.
Exactly.
And thankfully things have really changed. Mm-hmm. It's like, why is the United U Barco on the busiest street in Crawford County? Well, that's on purpose. Go there and get your treatment.
Right.
On the way to get your groceries and take care. It's part of in the person who's a customer there. It's part of their life, and this is not something that's pushing it into the background. To me, that's a bad thing all the way around.
Right.
Let's get it taken care of.
Well, and that's why we as the American Cancer Society, we try to provide information for everybody, resources to help talk to your children about it, resources about your own specific cancer, resources on what kind of foods to eat while you're in treatment. The whole gamut of information is available. So we encourage people to utilize our services. They're out there. They're free. It's important to know as much as you can, and we're here to help with that.
And people do need to talk about it. And cancer really is we're starting to talk about it as a chronic disease. So it is something that people are living with.
Yes.
Sometimes we can't completely cure cancer, but people may live for years. So they're going to have, these ongoing issues that they have to deal with. And so we do need to talk about it. And we also, you mentioned a lot of people don't know about our programs, the rides to treatment and those kinds of things. We need people to talk about that too. because we don't have enough people out in the community talking about what we do. And unfortunately, a lot of times we talk to patients or family members who say, I wish I would have known about that 6 months ago when I was diagnosed. So, if you're watching the show, somebody who's been diagnosed with cancer, please tell them about these things that are available so that they can help us spread the word.
I know even support group kind of things. So you mentioned before the Look Good and Feel Better program. There are other support groups after, and I'm done with my treatment. Now what do I do?
Right.
There's support groups for those folks.
Survivors.
Yes. Yeah, and this year I went out with our camera and filmed at the Survivor Day in June at the United Barco, and what an inspirational thing that was. That was great. And the Medicine Evil series, we played some of that video. That was great. Again, very inspirational. The therapy dogs were there. The kids were, the grandkids were there. It was tremendous.
We celebrate survivors. That's a huge part of what we do, and at all of our events. And Anna Marie can actually elaborate a little bit about that. One of our events is coming up, and the survivors play a huge role in those events.
Yeah. So coming up, we're coming up on October, which is, of course, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we do have, we're in our pink today. We do have an event coming up, Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, which is a fundraiser, but it's also an awareness event for us. It's always held the second Saturday in October. So this year it's October 8th in Erie, but it really is a regional event. So we get people who come. I think last year we had people from 12 different states and at least a dozen counties in Pennsylvania. So they come from all over. We had about 1,000 people last year come out and about 80 survivors. And that's where that tie-in comes. It is such a great opportunity for us to recognize survivors. And we have women who are newly diagnosed, and we have women that have, are 20 and 30 year survivors. And to be able to get them together and they walk a lap together and they can celebrate. And for those people who are newly diagnosed to be able to see, gosh, there's somebody who's survived this for 30 years. I can do that too. And then for those people who are long-term survivors to know that they can still make a difference. They can still inspire others. They can help in the fundraising efforts. They can help in spreading awareness. It's a wonderful event.
Powerful.
Yeah. I know I missed it this year. We were tied up with a family wedding, but the walk that happens now at the Crawford County Fairgrounds.
Yeah, Relay for Life.
How'd that go?
Relay for Life is always a great event here in Crawford County. It went very well this year. I think they're a little shy of their fundraising goal, but had a great turnout. And Relay for Life events are a great opportunity for us to get involved and to bring awareness to all types of cancer. Which is great because we do sometimes hear, well, why do we talk so much about breast cancer? And we do have our event in October that's focused on breast cancer, but events like Relay for Life really are there to celebrate people and recognize people that are affected by all types of cancer.
I mean, we were talking about HPV, the cervical cancer connection today, and again, Crawford County being one of the highest ranked counties in Pennsylvania. Again, but it's a fairly small number. Thankfully, there are other cancers that are more dangerous, more deadly than the cervical cancer.
Sure.
But still, we're so far out of whack, which I don't understand that. I'm sure we'll learn more about that as time goes by.
Right.
But
maybe something through that cancer prevention study we're working on might help us show if there's something, environmental or physical or what.
And being able to identify it then leads to the opportunity to start education and to get out there and spread the word about what can be done. Because when people hear there are options and there are ways to prevent this from happening, that's the way to go. And it takes people like yourself and ourselves and a community. It takes a community to get that word out and spread it and make sure that people know that there are options for themselves.
Well, let me ask you the same thing I asked Brooke a little bit ago. Make a sales pitch. What would you say to a family that's on the fence? Is it a good thing, bad thing to get my 10, 11-year-old vaccinated for the human papilloma virus?
Well, I've had my children.
And I have too.
We know that this can prevent cervical cancer and cancers in boys as well. And so we know this to be true. And as a parent, I want the best for my children. I don't want them to have to face something that later in life, especially because I didn't do it for them. This is something as an 11-year-old, they don't understand. They don't know what is down the road, but we do. So I think it's just a necessary part of the immunization process. I really do. It's important. We don't want to spread a virus that can cause cancer.
When you're 11, 14, 16, 19, you're bulletproof.
You're
nothing's ever going to happen to me.
It can't happen to me.
Right?
It can't happen to me. And so as a parent, it's my responsibility to make sure that I can protect them.
And there are side effects. There are side effects with all vaccinations. There are side effects with almost everything we do.
Yes.
But the side effects are very minimal when you look at the possible, good results of being able to prevent that cancer diagnosis. So I think people need to weigh that and really think about, I can prevent a very devastating, deadly disease with maybe some minor side effects. So, yeah, it's
And
important.
if people have questions, we offer, the American Cancer Society offers a lot of different information and
Can you find
pamphlets.
those things online?
Online, they could call, they could go online. A lot of it's online. You could print a lot of information out yourself at the website. But it talks about HPV and cancer and what women should know about it. So it's important to educate yourself. And as parents, we can educate ourselves and protect our kids because we know this.
Anna Marie Lewbowski, thank you for being
Thank
back
you,
with us. It's been a
Dwayne.
while.
It has been.
Susan, it's great to have
Great
you
to
on
see
for the
you.
first time. We'll have to do this again.
Yes, we will.
Thank
Lots
you.
to talk about.